Stop for a second and imagine this. You wake up one morning, you go to the ATM, and it refuses to give you your own money. Not because your balance is zero, but because the system itself is starting to fail. That's exactly what's happening in Russia right now. Russians are going back to the 90s, not in fashion, but in mindset. A deep, growing distrust in their banking system. According to open source data, in January 2026 alone, Russians withdrew a massive 1.6 trillion rubles in cash. That's not normal behavior, that's panic. The only time things were worse was back in March 2022, right after the invasion began, and now that fear is back. So what's driving this sudden rush for cash? Let's break it down. First, banking access problems. Since the beginning of the year, there have been countless reports of ATMs and even bank branches simply refusing access. People walk in and can't withdraw their own money. Think about that. It's like going to your locker and being told you can't open it, even though it's yours. That alone is enough to shatter trust. Second, internet shutdowns. This is where things get even more serious. In multiple regions, including Moscow, mobile internet has been restricted or completely shut down, sometimes for days. In some areas, even voice calls don't work properly. Now imagine trying to live like that in 2026. No online payments, no ride-hailing apps, no e-commerce. You can't order food. You can't book a cab, so you can't even complete basic transactions. So what do people do? They go back to cash, because cash doesn't depend on the internet. And here's the key point. This isn't just inconvenience. This is what happens during crisis situations. When systems become unreliable, people revert to what feels safe. Cash becomes survival. Now let's zoom out. What does this tell us about Russia's bigger picture? At its core, this is an economic problem, and not a small one. Because economic problems don't just appear overnight, they accumulate. It's like a crack in a dam. At first it's small, barely visible, but over time, pressure builds, and suddenly the entire structure is at risk. Russia's economy is facing exactly that kind of pressure. Government spending is rising, and especially due to ongoing conflicts. At the same time, key industries are struggling. When one sector is prioritized, like military production, others suffer. It's a trade-off. You boost one part and weaken another, and then comes the chain reaction. Higher taxes hit businesses shut down, loans go unpaid, banks start drowning in bad debt. According to internal estimates, nearly 1/4 of loans may not be repaid. Think about that. If 1 out of every 4 borrowers can't pay back, the banking system starts to crack. Now combine that with people withdrawing cash. You get a dangerous loop. People lose trust. They withdraw money. Banks face liquidity pressure. Restrictions increase. People panic even more. It feeds itself. And we're already seeing early signs of control measures. Major Russian banks have discussed allowing staff to deny withdrawals under certain conditions. This isn't theoretical, it's already happening. During the New Year holidays, many people reported they couldn't withdraw enough cash, even for basic spending. So what happens next? More fear, more withdrawals, more pressure. Even the numbers show it clearly. Out of the 1.6 trillion rubles withdrawn, only a fraction is being redeposited. Roughly 1.1 trillion rubles has effectively left the banking system. That's a massive outflow, and it's not stopping. Now here's where things get critical. This isn't just about money, it's about trust. A banking system survives on trust. The moment people stop believing their money is safe, the system starts to collapse, even if the numbers still look stable on paper. And right now there are too many warning signs. Economic stress, infrastructure disruptions, public dissatisfaction. Even in major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg, the cracks are visible. Because here's the reality. Economic crises don't explode overnight, and they build slowly, quietly, until suddenly they're impossible to ignore. Like an avalanche. At first it's just a few falling stones, then the entire mountain moves. And today, millions of Russians are reacting the only way they know how. They're pulling their money out, holding cash, preparing for uncertainty, but because deep down, they no longer trust the system. And once that trust is gone, everything else follows. Thanks for watching. This is Global Decode 13, where we break down global power, strategy, and geopolitics in simple terms. No noise, no hype, just clear understanding. If you want to see what's really happening beneath the headlines, make sure you're here for the next Decode. I'll see you in the next one.